We welcome you to another edition of Snap the Pigskin. I'm Noah Clark, joined by Kedrick Stumbris. We got the NFL season, 3 games left to go. We are closing out the regular season and getting ready for the playoffs. We got some good stuff for you today. Josh Allen beating the Detroit Lions and incredible stuff. His MVP season continues. We'll talk a little bit about that. The Packers winning on Monday Night Football. The Seahawks losing Geno Smith to injury. What happens next? We'll have a little bit of an update on that. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now in first place in the NFC South. And we also have some breaking news just before we came on the show here about some NFC South related stuff. And then fourth down, we've got a wild finish here for the number 1 seed in the NFC. We'll talk about that and bringing home the bacon and our pigskin primetime picks. Kedrick, it's good to see you. Good to hear from you. We got 3 games left before the playoffs start. I'm thoroughly excited to get into all this NFL news we got here today.
I think it's more like 48 games, but
40.
Yeah. No, this is like a super fun time of year. I love the NFL this time of year, and obviously we're doing this year round, but I just feel myself get a little more dialed in like right now. Once you hit December, especially mid-December, it was this week last year when the Packers also played on Sunday night at the Chiefs, and that's hosting the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And that's when it really felt, now obviously as a Packers fan, there's some bias built into there. But that's when you could feel the ground swell toward the postseason and everything coming together. And it's real fun last year in particular. But I don't know. There's something about when you hit December, when you get post Thanksgiving, when it's just like, all right, it's real postseason on its way. We like kind of finally know who's good. It's the hard part throughout the NFL season. It takes a really long time to actually be like, I don't know, I think this team's good. And then they go out and lay an egg kind of over and over again. I think we're going to talk about one of these teams later on in the show, but yeah. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk football.
I'm very excited. And especially coming up here, we've got like 5 days of consecutive football. That includes the college football playoff, because Thursday night, then we got football then we got Thursday night football, the college football playoff. Then there's a Christmas Day game, which is on a Wednesday. That's on Netflix. It's a lot of football, but
yeah, bowl games ongoing. We have Saturday NFL games now starting this Saturday, and good games on Saturday, yes. Running at parallel to the CFP Invitational, but it's good NFL games, and yeah, no one's gonna get too mad about too much football, even if I'm gonna be on a plane for part of it.
So let's get into first down here. Let's get into our drives of the week. Josh Allen essentially locked up the MVP award with his performance on Sunday, and man, I
come on, Noah, get more excited. You gotta. If you're gonna come out with a bold take,
I know.
Come on, right. Throw some oomph behind it.
Josh Allen came out slinging against the Detroit Lions and tamed the Detroit Lions at their home in the Lions' den. Had a dominating performance over the Detroit Lions. Even though Detroit, they put up quite a fight, a lot of offense in this game, but Josh Allen continues on with his MVP run. And dude, like we talked about this last week, and I say it again, this is the Bills' year, I think. And even more so, it's Josh Allen's year to win MVP, because man, this dude's a baller, and he's been the last several weeks here has been impressive stuff. And this was his signature performance against the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. And man, oh man, it was must-see TV for any football fan and any Bills fan to watch, if you put it that way.
Yeah, I believe this was I think this was the only time in NFL history that a team has both scored and given up 40 points in back-to-back games.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills, if you just want to watch that Monday Night Football game at the LA Coliseum between the Chiefs and the Rams over and over again, just turn on any Buffalo Bills game the rest of the year, right? It's not going to be quite as crazy as that game was, but it's pretty dang close. The score of this game, 48-42, does not tell the story. I mean, it was Detroit was not within a touchdown until their final drive of the game, until they tried to get an onside kick. They weren't within a touchdown the whole time. Aside from once the Bills scored on back-to-back possessions, it was just, man, it was hellfire from the Buffalo Bills offense. And there was nothing the Lions defense could do. And I understand the Lions defense is just injury decimated at this point. I get it. And what they're doing at this point in the season is impressive regardless. But I believe it was Detroit who scored on every single possession in the first half, or their first three at least. And it was, at that point, it was 21-7, and Detroit was playing catch up the entire time. Josh Allen looks like a different beast right now.
Yes.
It's unreal what he's doing with his arm, with his legs. He undeniably looks like the best player in football right now. Undeniably looks like the most important player in football right now. And maybe we change our tune a little bit if Lamar is able to kind of run and throw all over that Pittsburgh Steelers defense that also looked really awesome last week. Also, TJ Watt looked freaking awesome last week. But aside from like an electric Lamar Jackson performance against a really stout defense, I think you're right. I think this race for the MVP is basically done, barring something unusual.
Yeah, and because after seeing what Josh Allen did on Sunday, like there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, the last the last 3 games. Let me pull this up here. The last 3 games for the Bills, they have outscored. They've outscored their opponents in all 3 games. They've at least scored. They've at least scored 30 or more points in the 3 games that they've played. Now, one of them was a loss to the Rams, but they still put up like 42 points in that game. I mean, this offense is rolling. And especially, too, when you look at they lose Stephon Diggs this past season, that was everybody thought, oh, my God, they're not going to be the same team without Stephon Diggs. But they still look they still look good, and they look even better. And with a little bit of additions, you add Curtis Samuel, you draft Keon Coleman, you add Amari Cooper via trade from the Browns. You add all these pieces, and this offense is now at a new level. And it is showing. And this was the game that really showed me, man, the Bills not only look like a great team, they look like a Super Bowl team. And this was kind of the preview of what we might be seeing come February when these two teams meet. I mean, this Bills offense can really figure out how to get past the Lions defense. And it was, again, the Lions had a lot of injuries. They lost 2 more players on the defensive side of injury. They lost Lee McNeil for the season, and they lost Carlton Davis for the season with a fractured jaw. Like, I get that. But still, holy cow.
Well, and so much of it they've done the last 2 weeks is getting Ty Johnson going, running back, getting him going out of the backfield as a receiving threat, because before the beginning of December, that wasn't a thing.
No, not at all.
He has, 178 yards receiving in the month of December. He has 275 on the season. So aside from 97 receiving yards, all of that has been done the last couple of weeks. And it makes a huge difference on this against Detroit in particular, because they are so decimated in that front seven. They don't really have linebackers who are able to go out and cover him. And the threat that Josh Allen brings with his legs only, like the fact that Josh Allen can do so much, not just with his arm, but also with his legs. And then Ty Johnson can do so much, not just as a traditional running back, but then also to go out. You have two dual threat backs back there between Josh Allen and Ty Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
That is a nightmare, especially for a Detroit team that has some questionable depth at linebacker right now. Yeah. My goodness, would that Buffalo offense cause the Green Bay Packers fits? For example, can you imagine Quay Walker and Edge Cooper trying to figure out what the hell to do? Like they would need basically Edge Cooper to, I don't know,
cover
just spy Josh Allen full time, I guess, and then have Quay be dedicated to Ty Johnson. And then I don't know, you have Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Wilson, some combination of guys. Like, all right, you cover the rest of the middle of the field. Like it's and I bring up the Packers in particular because we kind of just saw them get sliced and diced over the middle of the field the last couple of weeks. And so what Buffalo is doing is so impressive that it brings that example to mind. Yeah, it's great. They don't miss Stephon Diggs.
No, not at all.
It's between that, it's the tight ends. They're really impressive right now. I don't know if they're going to be able to get enough stops to win a Super Bowl. I guess that's the big question.
What is their DVOA? I'm curious. Where are they at?
DVOA? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
But in terms of EPA per play on the defensive side of the ball, they're average. They're 14th. Wow. But it's, they're below average passing. They are a really good rush defense by EPA per play, so they have that going for them. But ultimately, they're going to need to stop the pass, and some of these, Jared Goff went off in this game, more or less. Jared Goff was 6 yards shy of 500. He had 494 yards and 5 touchdowns. Right. But when you fall behind 21-7, because the Bills, aside from when they kneeled out the clock, they had 2 non-scoring drives in this game. One, a missed 65-yard field goal, and the other, a punt. Those are the only 2 times that Buffalo didn't score when they touched the ball. Yeah, Jared Goff is not a guy who's built to throw the deep ball over the top for you. He can do it. I'm not saying Jared Goff is solely a check down merchant. He's certainly gotten far better than that during his time in Detroit. But yeah, I just don't know how the Bills look if they fall behind too quickly in a big matchup.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know if their defense can produce a few stops to get them there. Because that's what happened when they played the Rams, is they fell behind 17-7, and the defense couldn't get enough stops to let the Bills offense back in it, even though they scored 42.
Yeah. And that has been a concern in the postseason too, is where they've played the Chiefs a couple times and they'll fall behind. And that's one of the big reasons why they've lost. So you've got to hope that Sean McDermott will adjust accordingly. Because he's not.
I don't think it's a matter of adjust. It's just a matter of, like, they don't have the guys. They don't have the guys in the back half of the defense, and that's something that we talked about going back to our division preview series at the very beginning of the year. Like, they didn't
have any safeties.
And they still don't really. They are serviceable. Like, it can get the job done if Josh Allen is going to go out and be Josh Allen. But if he has an off night, if you have a weird night. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Quick thing with the Lions, because we got to move on to second down. But Detroit, decimated with injuries. They lose 3 more players. They lose Aleem McNeil, Carden Davis, and they lost David Montgomery for the season. That I will say, out of all the injuries, because we've seen so many injuries on the defense, The David Montgomery one is
or something to really start breaking their back on offense.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Well, the David Montgomery one is pretty. That's a tough loss. Like the whole reason behind the Lions and why they're such a good team is their identity of Dan Campbell, which is run the football and absolutely, just pound the rock consistently with David Montgomery. And then you can get Jahmyr Gibbs going out on the outside. And they don't have that now. And now it's going to be just Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think that is one weakness that the Bills kind of exposed, the Packers kind of exposed, was if you stop the run game and you make Jared Goff beat you with his arm, it's a little bit harder for the Lions. Yes, they still can they'll still carve you up, but
they still have awesome receivers.
Yeah, and they still
Ross St. Brown seems like an absolute loser. There is like the time for, and I was never this guy to begin with.
No.
The time for people getting all cutesy about the Lions needs to be over. There was so much loser BS jawing going on in that game, seemingly all instigated by Detroit. My God, how freaking lame.
So I mean, David Montgomery.
I would say act like you've been there before, but you haven't.
No, they have not. Unfortunately.
Oh, also the offensive identity. It's not Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell doesn't call plays. Dan Campbell is gonna go.
That's right. Sorry, Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson gets a good job somewhere.
Yes, that's right. Now on to second down. The Green Bay Packers, incredible, dominating performance on Sunday Night Football. They beat the Seattle Seahawks 30-13, and a massive road win for Green Bay because this is the last time they won at Lumen Field, or as it was called, CenturyLink Field, was 2008. That was the last time they won on the road at Seattle. That was Aaron Rodgers' first year as the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, and Jordan Love's second year, he gets the win in Seattle, and another dominating performance. They came out the first like 2 or 3 drives and just punched him in the mouth right away. Josh Jacobs just started getting going. Another 100-yard day. Bad news for Seattle, though. Geno Smith suffered a knee injury. The update, though, on Monday was that no structural damage. So now it's just waiting to see if he will practice for the Seahawks because they got a big matchup coming up this next week. And I think, and I've got either my two teams mixed up, if it's the Lions or if it's the Vikings this week. It's one of those two. I think it's the Vikings because the Vikings play the
Seahawks play the Vikings. Yeah, the Seahawks play the Vikings this week.
So big matchup for Seattle. What's even more big about this is they cannot take another loss, or loss is, because the division title.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for them to get a playoff spot if they lose another game.
Yeah, and they've got the Rams.
Some stuff to break their way.
And they got the Rams down the stretch here. They got the Rams at the very end of the season. So they got to hope that Geno was healthy, but if they don't have Geno Smith ready to go, Sam Howell is the guy who is on deck. And I laugh at that too. I never thought I'd be saying
it was so bad. So bad. So bad.
How bad?
On Sunday night. Let me tell you precisely how bad. Sam, what do you think Sam Howell's EPA per drop back was?
Oh boy. Like a 3.2.
That number doesn't make sense.
No,
I'm gonna guess you mean like 0.32 here. Which would be pretty good. No, this is fair. This is not an excellent question if you don't have like super great context on that scale.
Yeah.
It was really bad. Sam Howell's EPA per play was negative 0.857. The only person who was worse last week by EPA per play was Will Levis, who became another meme again. That's almost 0.9 of a point the Seahawks lost every single time Sam Howell dropped back.
And they somehow got 13 points. I mean, it was only because they had a turnover
this is
led
because
to points.
I genuinely thought we were gonna get some classic Green Bay playing in Seattle shenanigans when this happened.
Yes.
When you get Romeo, was it Romeo Doubs? No, it was
Josh Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs fumbles on the wrong side of the 50. And then you're like, in the back of my head, even then, I was all right,
flashback.
Here it comes. And then it's the touchdown and it's 23-13. I'm like, oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
And then the Packers go 3 and out. Give it back to Seattle. They go 3 and out and then muff the punt. And I'm like, oh, here we go.
Well, and then Edgerrin Cooper got that pick like at the last 5 minutes of the game, which was huge. Which I will say, holy cow, the nuts on Jordan Love to go to Dobbs to the end zone at the end of on that 3rd and 5. Like, that was very, very ballsy. And it's been something that, been kind of waiting for from Green Bay, is try to be more aggressive and can execute on some of these bigger plays. And they finally got one. But yeah, it was not a very fun 6 minutes. Last 6 minutes of the game were very stressful, I will say.
The beginning of it was quite fun, though.
And
I think probably a good preview of what we're going to see this upcoming week from the Packers is on the opening drive, a 10-play drive, and Josh Jacobs got 9 touches to score and take a 7-0 lead. I think that's something like what Green Bay is going to do to New Orleans this week.
They should.
They're just going to, it's going to be, I can't believe they're putting it on national TV. That should probably be illegal. It's going to be nasty. And what they're able to do is gross. And it's so much of just like, yeah, we're just going to run inside zone with Josh Jacobs because he's just a monster after contact at this point. He is dynamic. He is incredible. And it impresses me what they do with him early in games. And I get that they go away from him a little bit late. And I think that's just some of what they bake into their game plan. Is that instead of wearing defenses down, it's they do a lot of this to open up some of the more, the orbit motion stuff and whatever they might want to do with Jaden Reed in the backfield. And all of that gets more dangerous if you establish Josh Jacobs as a threat early. So while I understand some Packers fans' gripes with like, why do you go away from Jacobs? It's like, I think there's more to it. Yeah, there's more to it where it's like, they're not really getting away from Jacobs. It's that they are doing all of the things late in the game that they built into the game plan because they go to Jacobs so early and often.
And you look at Seattle. I mean, like, Seattle was also stopping Jacobs in that second half. I mean, they kind of adjusted and were able to kind of slow him down.
And that's what's like, and then it's like, okay, you are selling out to stop Josh Jacobs. That's why you have all the other stuff that you can do.
Right.
Yeah, it's great.
So, I mean, and it worked. Like, it worked. They were able to, be able to convert on some big, early downs. They were able to get some big chunks. Like, one drive, they had an RPO that went to Dontavian Wicks for a gain of 9. They had 2 end arounds with Jaden Reed that the Seahawks defense bit on both of them to set it up. So, like, I mean, it's, it's good. Like, it's good.
Only thing is that we continue to see that Matt LaFleur is not nearly as aggressive as some of his counterparts in some of these big games.
Yeah.
That there was the situation at the end of the first half where the Packers let that clock run down.
He went full Eberflus on that.
Well, they had 2 timeouts, 2:54 on the clock, and they end up settling for a field goal and like not really trying. They went full Eberflus on it.
Yeah.
Yes, but no, because LaFleur actually came out and said,
well, at least he admitted to that.
He said, we give Jordan Love the ability to do all the play calling so that we can make it go faster, right?
Right.
But then he's calling audibles and changing the play at the line and doing his best Aaron Rodgers impression, basically, as the clock winds down to 0. And Matt LaFleur immediately was like, no, we got to take him back and go through how to do that better, right? There's accountability there that I think is always good, and something that I think Matt LaFleur is good at doing when other poor head coaches aren't. There's that, but then there's also kicking the field goal when you're all the way down at the Seattle. You get the ball deep because you are bailed out by
a pass interference
call, and then instead of going for it really deep in Seattle territory, when you don't have any real risk of Seattle coming back the other way and doing something against you because you're at the 3-yard line with 4 seconds left in the half, why don't you just try to punch it in and
right.
make the score 24-3? Yeah, I get it, but also Seattle wasn't scoring 20 on you.
Right.
I don't think they were, regardless of who was playing quarterback in that game. So getting to 20 was probably still the right move. But it just was like, yeah, one of these times I would just love to see it, and just to know that you will. Yeah.
Well, we'll see that. I think we'll see that hopefully in this Saints game. I mean, the Saints are.
I don't think so. But
you don't think so?
We'll talk about that a little bit later too.
Okay. Third down. Let's get to third down here. Tampa Bay Bucks. They are back in first place in the NFC South. The Falcons, despite the fact ending their 4-game losing streak and sweeping Tampa, they lost. The Bucks have been kind of on a roll here the last several weeks. I mean, they have been really tearing it up. They're playing their best football. They've won 4 straight and are cruising into the playoffs. Baker Mayfield put up 40, and I am really impressed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But you look on the other side of this, we got some breaking news here about the Atlanta Falcons, which is massive. This just came out actually earlier. This came out before we came on the show. The Atlanta Falcons have officially benched Kirk Cousins for Michael Penix Jr., their first-round quarterback that they drafted this past year, and he will be the starter moving forward. Raheem Morris said that the quarterback position needed to play better. This is now an opportunity to see if they, with Penix, can play better. The tough thing about Kirk, it happens. He got paid a lot of money to come in, and he hasn't played all that well. He hasn't played like how Kirk Cousins usually plays. And now they're going to go with a rookie. And this is a bold move by Atlanta. I mean, this is a very bold move. You have 3 games left in the season. This move should have been done weeks ago. And now the fact that it's happening the last 3 weeks when you're trying to fight for a playoff spot is very, very risky. And not only that is it risky if it doesn't pay off, but also too, the ramifications of this Kirk Cousins deal are pretty huge. If the Falcons were to cut Kirk Cousins prior to the start of the 2025 season, which that will not happen, they would have basically $75 million in dead money. If they were to trade him, $27.5 million base salary guarantee would transfer over to the acquiring team. So the Falcons would still be responsible for $37.5 million of that portion. So basically the Falcons, and I said this at the beginning of the year.
That's actually not the craziest idea
of trading him.
That's not, I could see someone. That's not the worst thing in the world that could happen.
No. But Atlanta, either way, they kind of screwed themselves by paying for Kirk when he's coming off of an Achilles injury, and then you draft Michael Penix, knowing that you need pass rush. And I haven't understood the Falcons this whole season. That's been the issue.
I didn't realize that they could trade him away and get away with only that little dead cap money. They paid over 40 million of dead cap money for Matt Ryan. Mm-hmm. And that was however long ago. So like that 37 is not as much. Not like I understand that 37 is smaller than 40, but I mean proportional to the salary cap, it's even less than 40. Like more or less than 40. Horrible way of wording it. That's an interesting thought. I had not thought that out in my head.
I mean, we got 3 games to see what Michael Penix can do.
Right.
And these are some pretty big games. Like, talk about starting out as the starting quarterback for the Falcons. This is you have a chance to get to the playoffs, but they should have done this a long time ago. Let me just say
I don't know. Like he didn't ball out in the preseason. He looked okay-ish.
Yeah.
You're risking that Penix is mostly a finished product because of his advanced age. Mm-hmm. And so juicing any more out of him is probably going to take more than just these, 10, 14, 15 weeks. So I don't know. It's not like he's facing great defenses the last 3 weeks of the season. The Giants, Commanders, and Panthers. So you have that going for you.
The Cowboys. They got the Cowboys. Cowboys, Panthers, Saints. Oh, whoops. I'm looking at the wrong one. Nope, yeah. You're right.
Yeah. No, the Bucks play the Cowboys this week.
Yes.
Sorry. So maybe Penix goes out and makes himself a little bit of a situation here. That could be interesting. And they'll need it. They need what? They need the Bucks to stumble once, mm-hmm. and potentially to win out, depending on how many times the Bucks stumble. So I don't know.
It's not gonna. I mean, it's interesting. Tampa, like I said earlier, I think Tampa could coast because their schedule, their last 8 games of the season were pretty easy. But now looking at it, I mean,
the problem. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying, but you look at it too. I mean, the Panthers have put up quite a fight the last couple of weeks. The Cowboys have shown some sign that they are fighting, but even though they're not playing for a playoff spot, I mean, and again too, the NFL is a week-to-week basis. You never know really what's going to happen. So that's my thing with Tampa.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I am more interested in, I think, what I'm going to learn about Atlanta for not even just this postseason, but for the next postseason, given what we're going to see from Penix. The problem is that the Falcons passing defense is still bad. I understand that they didn't give up anything to the Raiders, but that's because the Raiders don't have a passing offense. You just gave up 42 to the Vikings. You gave up 38 to the Broncos 2 weeks before that, or 3 weeks before that, whatever it was. That's a problem for a team that has to face the Commanders in a couple of weeks here. And that, if we're projecting a Sunday night football shootout between the Commanders and Falcons, I'm taking the Commanders in that one. And I don't think that's much of a question. I know neither of those defenses are great, but I would have to, it would be the first time basically that we need to see Penix go out and win a game on his own, most likely. So that would be really hard, and especially with stakes. You haven't given him an opportunity to go out and do this against I don't know, the Seahawks early, the Panthers early. He's jumping in and we need you to win games Nah.
Which
And
is a big ask.
It is, and it's not like he isn't coming off of this, right? He is just coming off of a national championship appearance. He's coming off of beating Oregon twice last season. So I don't know. I am fascinated to see what it looks like. I don't know if it's going to look good or not. I have no idea. He and Kirk Cousins are a little different quarterbacks. It's not that Penix is particularly mobile, but he can at least extend plays a little bit. So I get why, but he's gonna be more erratic back there than Kirk Cousins is, most definitely. Man, so I don't know. This is a very interesting break glass in case of emergency situation that I don't know that I totally get from the Falcons. After, yes, I get that he threw 2 picks against the Vikings, but he also passed for 344 yards. I get that they were trailing most of that game and most of the second half, but like that game was tied until going into the fourth quarter. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that I totally get it.
It just, I don't know. Atlanta this year has been very confusing. I think, like from the start.
Yes, this is one of these confusing teams that I just don't know who's good.
Yeah,
the whole year I don't know who's good in the NFC South.
Yeah,
I know it's not I know it's not the Saints or the Panthers, but
no. It's just like because the Falcons, even at the beginning, like the offseason, they sign Kirk Cousins, and you're like, okay, they've got themselves a quarterback, and then they proceed to draft Michael Penix, and it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like they needed pass rush. Which they did get pass rush in Matthew Judon, but he really hasn't been all that much of an improvement. And their secondary is terrible. And it's like, yeah. But
Matthew Judon has 4 TFLs this season.
Yeah, it's bad. That is bad. So,
6
now
QB hits, like you're not getting anything from him.
No. And he was supposed to be he was the big trade that everybody said at the beginning of this offseason. Like Matthew Judon was one of the bigger trades for a pass rusher. And it has not panned out. And they have Grady Jarrett, who's a really good pass rusher, and it still hasn't panned out. Oh, God.
No. Fascinated to see what's going to happen. Baker's been playing well. Not like, I mean, he's rebounded back to playing as an upper tier quarterback this season. Like he was putting up MVP-esque numbers to start the year, and obviously they went through a little bit of a downswing there, but he's balling out again. It's really impressive, especially considering their injury situation through a good chunk of this year too. I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to parlay this into fourth down, but I will be fascinated to see what a potential. I would be way more interested to see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs against the Lions, Vikings, or Packers than I would be interested to see the Atlanta Falcons. Which I'm going to steal Noah's thunder here and bring up fourth down, which is who's going to finish with the 1 seed in the NFC. The Lions, Vikings, or the Eagles, another opponent, which would be really interesting to see Tampa Bay play a rematch of that playoff matchup from last year where we saw the Eagles finally put out of their misery. But now it feels like both those teams are like on the upswing instead of one being very much on the downswing. Noah, this year, the Packers, I know the Packers aren't in conversation for the 1 seed here, and
not even close.
Yeah, no. But the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings are 34-4 against every team in the league that is not the Packers, Lions, or Vikings. The only losses to other teams are the Packers losing to the Eagles in contention for the 1 seed. The Vikings lost to the Rams, which are, I think, probably going to be a playoff team out of the NFC West. Yeah. And the Lions have lost to the Buccaneers, probably a division winner, and the Bills. Like I know that it's been a chalky NFL year all around, but I mean, this NFC North really speaks to it, that none of these teams have bad losses outside of, each other. And yeah, the Packers lost to the Lions and lost to the Vikings. One of those games, both those games at home were like hobbled Jordan Love games, and there's weirdness in there. And yeah, but all these teams are really good. It's not like the Eagles really have mystifying losses either. The one to start the year against Atlanta doesn't look great.
That was head scratching.
Hindsight. But that's also really early, and it's been nothing but good stuff since then.
Yeah. The other thing too is you look at the Eagles, they also lost to the Bucks this year in the regular season. So that's something.
So Lions, Vikings, and Eagles all 12-2.
Oh my God. Like this is if everything goes as the way it should, like week 18 is going to be fascinating on who is going to get the 1 seed, or even just like the last 2 weeks, at least for the Vikings, because the Vikings have the Packers and they have the Lions the last 2 weeks of the season.
And is that Packers game is also Monday Night Football? Yes.
Mm-mm.
Or is it Sunday? No, it's like Sunday at 3, isn't it?
It's a 12 o'clock game. The Packers Vikings is a 12 o'clock game, but they have they do 6 days to flex that, which I'm really hoping that it gets flexed to 3:25.
Well, I have new week 17 scheduling times that came out just earlier today.
And it said, are you looking at the same one that I was looking at this morning? Because I was looking at that and it said that they were playing
at noon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't think. Yeah, I don't think it's moved.
They need to. I'm really hoping that they will move it, because that would be nice if it's a 3:25 game.
I don't think they can move it now. I think this is the deadline to flex the week 17 games.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Well, it's next Tuesday. I think it's next Tuesday you can flex them.
No, you have to do it 2 weeks out.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. I'm dumb. But no, this is fascinating, because if the Lions slip up and lose another one, the Vikings could overtake them, but the Lions still would have a chance at the division title because they have the better division record. They've, beaten everybody in the NFC North, and in terms of their conference record is better. If the Vikings, all the Vikings really have to do is just win out and get to week 18, and you're playing for a division championship and you get the 1 seed. And then if both the Lions and the Vikings lose, then the Eagles are sitting in prime position for 1 seed. Like, it's holy cow. It is quite wild how the end of this season is going to go. And I don't think in watching the NFL, I don't think we've ever seen.
I was wrong, by the way. No, they can't flex it until early next week.
That's what I was saying. I thought they could flex it. Yeah,
you're right.
But back to what I was saying. So like I've never seen a race where we have 3 teams with double-digit wins with 3 games left in the season in a race for the 1 seed be this close. It's just like, it's never been this tight.
I'm sure that it has. What about like Packers Tampa Bay down the stretch in 2020?
I was gonna say, if you can find me one, then that would be wild. Oh my goodness, like the Eagles, and what's crazy too is all 3 of these teams are really good. Like the Lions, the Vikings, and the Eagles are really good. Like I'm 50-50 on the Vikings, because it's like they beat the Bears handily, they beat the Falcons handily, but like you look at every other game that they've played, it's either 1 score or it's either a 1-score game or it's not. And most of the time it's a 1-score game. Like, I don't really, there's nothing really much to say other than that. Like their last 2 games, the Bears, they beat by 30, and the Falcons, they beat by 42. But then you look after that, The Cardinals, they only won by 1. The Bears, they only won by 3. The Titans, they only won by 10. The Jaguars, they only won by 5. Like they have some of these wins that are wins, but they aren't really impressive. Like these last 2 wins that they've had against these 2 teams have been impressive, but every other win really hasn't been. And then the Lions have just been smoking everybody. And the Eagles too.
But you have to wonder just like how much can they actually hang on?
The Vikings?
No, sorry, the Lions.
Yes, and that's the other thing too is Detroit right now. Like David Montgomery being out is so bad. Like it's brutal for them.
Like I just don't know. This team is so different from what it was week 1. Mm-hmm. So different from what it was week 1. And I get that they have looked really good all year. I get that they went up and put 42 up on Buffalo, and putting 42 up on anybody is impressive. I get that they just beat the Packers and looked pretty dang good doing it. But I just don't know for how long can you skate by on what's basically a second team defense, on basically a second team defensive front. Mm-hmm. How long can you get away with it until somebody just decides to like run the ball down your throat or something?
It's happened. I mean, the Bills did it consistently on Sunday, and what's tough about it is like now you lose Aleem McNeil. That's one of your better run stuffing defensive linemen, and you lose Carlton Davis. That's one of your better corners. Like they just don't have the numbers, and I agree with you. Like I just at some point the Lions defense is gonna break. And when it does, it's not going to look pretty. I mean, Aaron Glenn has done a good job of being able to keep that defense afloat and managing, but it's like Minnesota could carve them up because Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison have been really good the last couple weeks here.
Yeah. It'll be fascinating. No, I want to go back to your point before because I was thinking it just stuck in my head, and I was remembering back to the playoff race last year for the number 1 seed when San Francisco, Philly, San Francisco, Detroit, and Dallas all finished 12-5.
Oh yes, I forgot about that
last year.
So last year was when we had a wild.
Last year was really. I mean, it usually ends up close like this, right? It's
a
small sample size sport. You don't get the opportunity for any team to like really pull away by playing 162 games, right? Or like in 2008 when the Patriots went 11-5 with Matt Castle and missed the playoffs. That year the Titans were 13-3, Steelers were 12-4, Miami was 11-5. And it's you get something like this every year. Pretty close to it.
Fascinating. Yeah, but like these last like 3 weeks are quite. I'm expecting there's going to be some chaos these last 3 weeks here. Like
if you had to take any one of these teams to go ahead and finish the job and get the number 1 seed over the next 3 weeks, who are you taking to do it?
Man, I want to say the Eagles. I think
so too, just because the path is so obvious.
Yes, and it's
just win out, and you have 3. I get that it's all divisional games, but like it's the Giants really and the Cowboys.
Really easy.
It's the Giants, Cowboys, and Commanders. Your divisional games are not what you think they are, but also it wouldn't. Man, but it's so hard. But it's because they're divisional games. I also wouldn't be surprised to see them get got in like 2 of the 3.
Which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the Cowboys, like if they get got either the Cowboys or somebody else or like the Giants, like it could happen. But I think the Eagles, like they have the most obvious path. Like if I were to say second, surprisingly, I think it would be the Vikings because I just don't think Detroit has the bodies to keep up with the pace that they're going. And like specifically on the defensive side, like they're not in a good spot. Like
the Vikings though have 2. They have to play the Packers and the Lions.
Yeah, back-to-back weeks, like week 17 and week 18.
And like
But
I thought the Detroit I thought the Vikings offense looks like not great last week. And the team
Bears
still
or the
scored
Falcons?
against the Bears.
Oh.
And they still scored 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam Darnold passed for 230 yards on 40 attempts, which I also don't understand why you have Sam Darnold throw the ball 40 times, but it's because they can't run Aaron Jones into the ground, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Even when the Vikings have been like mostly milk toast to me, I am just not. Yeah, I just genuinely don't know where this is gonna fall. I really don't.
That's why I'm like, chaos is going to ensue here the last 3 weeks of the season, because like we don't know, like one loss could change everything about how the 1 seed gets. I mean, think about this, like Detroit, like they've had the 1 seed for so long, but then you look, imagine if they win and get to that last game with the Vikings and lose, then the Vikings ideally get the 1 seed. And then Philadelphia gets the 2, and then Detroit would be what? They'd be a 5 seed, I think, right? Because it'd be the first, because you'd have the division winners, and then you have the other 3 wild cards. Yeah. So they'd be that first wild card. So they'd be the 5 seed, and they wouldn't host a playoff game. Essentially, that's where this could get crazy in such a hurry, like in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Like,
should be fun. Yeah. All right, let's try to predict some stuff and give out some bacon.
Yeah, give out some bacon, and we're going to give it to Josh Allen, who went off this week. Josh Allen with the dominating performance over the Detroit Lions, 23 for 34 for 362 yards, passing with 2 passing touchdowns. He also had 11 carries for 68 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Mind you, the week before, he had 6 total touchdowns. So he continues his performance from the Rams to the Lions and tamed that Lion ass. Now, moving forward into our Pigskin primetime picks here. Got some good ones, got some ugly ones, but Kedrick is, I'm guessing, still very much in the lead, and he's pulling away here with 3 games left.
3 weeks left.
3 weeks left. Sorry, 3 weeks.
Yeah, left. Still ahead, still in the lead, still continuing to improve. I mean, both of us are still continuing to improve week over week here, getting ourselves lower and lower back to as good as we've been still since week 2. But like I said, it's been a pretty chalky year. But I have not picked the wrong winner of a game since week 12. So I can only assume that this week will be my reckoning. But otherwise, pretty solid week all around. We both had the Rams by 3. They won by 6. We slept on the Packers a little bit. I had them by 6. You had them by 4, and they win by 17.
Yeah,
you were too eager on the Bears, still picking the Vikings to only win by a touchdown.
Yeah,
not the best thing. I had the Falcons by 7, and they won by 6, so that felt pretty dang good too. So a pretty solid week all around, all things considered. But I think these games are going to be where it goes up in the air a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, we got a good one. Let's start with a good Thursday night game. Broncos and Chargers. The Denver Broncos, for the first time since 2016, or the 2015-2016 season, they have a winning record, which is really impressive from what Sean Payton has done. And they're on their way to the playoffs. The Chargers, on the other hand, got the doors blown off them by the Bucs at their own building. This is a big game for the Chargers if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. Who do you got, Broncos, Chargers, for this one?
Well, so this was flexed back like a month ago. This was supposed to be Bengals, Browns. So fortunately, We do not have to deal with that.
Thank God.
So that's pretty great. Yeah, this is, man, two weird teams right here that you can't really figure out all year long. I guess I will take the Chargers, and I feel like I'm going to regret it. Because I think these are two fairly even teams. Man, I have this is one where I genuinely just do not.
It's kind of a toss up.
It absolutely feels like a toss up. I think Bo Nix is like fine. I don't think he's a superstar, but I think he's like fine. Which is not something I expected to be saying at the beginning of the season. He's been doing everything Sean Payton asks him to do, which is not surprisingly way too much. Just constantly throwing the ball. And the fact that they put up 31 on the Colts, and and did so coming back from 10 down early, was impressive. I know that Colts defense is not amazing. And I know Bo Nix threw 3 picks in that game, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. All of that stuff, I guess not all of it came early. And I know that, man, there's other problems on that Broncos offense. And yeah, it's, ugh. I'm going to take the Chargers because I think they're a more stable product, but I'll only pick them by 3.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Now I got to go here. I'm in the same spot because it's like you look at both these teams, like they're both playing really good football. I will say for the Chargers, man, they need J.K. Dobbins back. Like he was.
They really do.
Like he
was. They can't. I like Justin Herbert, but I don't think he's ever going to be an MVP guy.
No,
I don't think so. I think he's
going to be basically another version of Philip Rivers. Like he's good enough to win you games, get you the playoffs.
No,
you don't even think that.
No.
So
in a different era, Philip Rivers wins an MVP.
Really?
Yes.
That I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think Justin Herbert's Philip Rivers. I think know. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, give me the Broncos in this one. I think Denver right now needs it more. The Chargers, they just got the doors blown off them by the Bucs. It's very hard for me to see them come back after getting the doors blown off them.
Fair.
And on a short week too, no less, and try and go against the Broncos. Like it's going to be a close game. Give me Broncos by like 3. I think this is going to be so close though. I truly think like if they had J.K. Dobbins, like this would be a really like they're able to win this game because he's been kind of their offense the entire season, and not having him, it's been really letting Justin Herbert throw the ball. And we've seen it with the Greg Roman offense. It's not predicated on that. So, next one, Sunday Night Football.
Wait, Bucs. So you're taking the Broncos by how much?
3. Okay. The Broncos by 3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have no idea. It feels safe to just take the other side of that and hope for the best.
Yeah. Bucs and speaking of the Bucs now, Bucs and Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Tampa is kind of on a tear here, and the Cowboys, though, they've been looking like a somewhat of a team that can cause some chaos to some teams. This is at AT&T Stadium. Unfortunately, AT&T Stadium has not been friendly to the Cowboys this year, and it might not be friendly to the Bucs. Kedrick, but who do you got for this game? Bucs or Cowboys?
So last week the Cowboys were underdogs against the Panthers.
which I thought was hilarious.
For the first time in 33 games, the Panthers were favored, which is the longest streak on record. Incredible. The Buccaneers are good. The Cowboys aren't. I get that the Cowboys won anyway. I get that they went out and scored 30 points on the Carolina Panthers. I understand that. But I don't think Cooper Rush is going to go out and throw 3 touchdowns again, and I don't see that happening. I don't see Rico Dowdle going off for what was it, 6 yards per carry again. I don't think so. There's a chance, I guess, that this is like high scoring ish and could be fun. But I think the Buccaneers are clearly the better team here. They are in the midst of a big playoff push. I get that the Cowboys are playing with a lot of pride right now, but I think that's all they're really playing with and for. So I will take the Buccaneers to win this by, I want to decide how safe I want to go here. No, by 10. By 10.
I was gonna say the safe bet would be to pick the Bucs by 10. I'm gonna be quick on this one. I think Tampa Bay that they're coasting to the postseason. Bucs by 10. I mean, it Dallas just doesn't have a shot. Dallas doesn't have a shot. So then finally the last game on our list, the Packers for the 4th straight week are playing in primetime yet again. And it's been, hey, they've given us some good games. They've given us some good games to watch. If you're a Packer fan, you cannot.
Baby.
It is Toyotathon. Toyotathon Love is doing his thing. 26 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the month of Toyotathon is pretty darn good. But Kedrick, you have the floor here. The other thing too, last time Jordan Love played the Saints, first comeback in his career. So
a very epic 4th quarter comeback, one that I do not think is going to be required in this one. No. Packers by 17.
Holy man.
They are going to bolt this Saints team. This Saints team has nothing to play for. They are an organization that they are going to be even worse next year. They don't know who their starting quarterback is. They are flip-flopping between Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler. The Saints aren't going to be able to score points. And they are not going to be able to stop this Packers offense that is firing on all cylinders. This will not be close. This will be a murder on Monday Night Football.
Woohoo! Murder on Monday night. Give me Packers by 14 in this one.
I thought you were going to say 30.
No, but give me Packers by 14 in this one. The Saints are really bad, 29th in rush EPA and 30th in rush success rate. They are just
like bad. I said, I think we're going to see a lot of Josh Jacobs this week.
They are just bad. So give me Green Bay in this one. I just man, they're gonna boat race him, and finally we won't have to see him in primetime, even though it's been fun watching him in primetime the last 4 weeks or so. Yeah. Watch Snap the Pigskin, everybody, on YouTube. Give us a like and subscribe, and listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcast, Amazon Podcast, etc. And also give Kedrick a follow as well on the Sconnie Six Pack. Got some good stuff going on. Badger, the transfer portal for the Badgers has been booming the last 2 days here. They got their quarterback, got Billy Edwards for the quarterback. I don't know if if that's a good thing or not, but we're gonna come in with a positive attitude. So
This is the bad year to need a quarterback out of the portal.
Mhm.
Not a lot of. Billy Edwards was a better guy than a lot available, and I think that says more about the market than it says about Billy Edwards.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than Braden Locke. Let's put it that way. It's a better option than Braden Locke. I mean, you don't think so? I mean, like
Probably.
you'd have to be really bad to
No,
be.
I think so.
Okay. I was nervous there. But yeah, give us a follow. Give Kedrick a follow. I'm Noah Clark. This has been yet another edition of Snap the Pigskin.